Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat at your desk, staring at your screen, doing everything you're supposed to be doing, and yet, inside, something feels deeply off? Not lazy, not incompetent, not ungrateful, just misaligned. Maybe you've thought things like, why does this feel harder for me than it seems for everyone else? Why do I feel drained by things other people tolerate just fine? Why do I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not? 8 hours a day? And maybe the most confusing part is this. On paper, your job is fine, stable, respectable, maybe even objectively good. So why do you feel like you're wearing shoes that technically fit, but give you blisters every time you walk? If this resonates, I want you to hear this clearly, right from the start. Feeling out of place in normal jobs is not a personal failure. It's often a psychological pattern. And once you understand it, the confusion starts to make sense. In this video, we're going to unpack why some people feel fundamentally misaligned with standard work structures, what's really happening in your brain and nervous system, and, most importantly, what you can do about it without shaming yourself or blowing up your life overnight. This is not about quitting your job tomorrow. It's about understanding your mind. Let's begin. Most people who feel out of place at work carry a quiet belief. If I were more disciplined, more resilient, more normal, this wouldn't bother me so much. So you try harder, you push through, you self-correct, you minimize your discomfort. You tell yourself, everyone hates work, this is just adulthood. But here's the psychological trap. When something chronically drains you, your brain doesn't interpret it as growth. It interprets it as threat. And that matters, because what you're experiencing isn't just dissatisfaction. It's often a nervous system mismatch. Let's reframe this. Imagine a deep sea fish forced to live in shallow water. The fish isn't broken. The water isn't evil. But the fit is wrong. Many people who feel out of place in normal jobs have psychological traits that clash with standardized work environments. Traits like high sensitivity, high cognitive depth, emotional intensity, strong need for meaning, polymathic or multi-interest minds, low tolerance for artificial constraints, strong internal value systems. These aren't weaknesses, but they do come with friction in environments built for predictability, hierarchy, repetition, and emotional neutrality. Let's break down the core mechanisms. Some people's nervous systems are simply more reactive. This isn't pathology, it's biology. Research on sensory processing sensitivity and neuroresponsiveness shows that some brains process more information, notice subtle social cues, feel emotional shifts more intensely, fatigue faster in overstimulating environments. Now think about a normal job. Open offices, constant interruptions, artificial urgency, low autonomy, social performance expectations, shallow tasks stretched across long hours. For a highly responsive nervous system, this is like running 20 browser tabs at once, all day. You don't just get tired, you get fried. And when your nervous system is overloaded, motivation doesn't disappear because you're lazy. It disappears because your system is trying to protect itself. Here's another key pattern. Some people are wired for depth over breadth. You want to understand why, not just what. See the whole system, not just your task. Connect work to values, meaning, or long-term impact. Solve real problems, not perform roles. But many normal jobs reward compliance over curiosity, speed over depth, visibility over substance, politics over truth. So you're asked to act shallow even though your mind is built to go deep. That creates internal friction. Over time, this friction becomes cynicism, disengagement, quiet resentment, or a constant urge to escape, not because you hate working, but because you hate working disconnected from meaning. Let's talk about identity. Most standard jobs require you to narrow yourself. You're expected to care about fewer things, stay in your lane, suppress parts of your personality, play a predictable role. But if you're a person with multiple interests, evolving identity, cross-disciplinary thinking, strong inner life, this feels like psychological suffocation. It's like compressing a complex personality into a two-dimensional role, and the brain responds to that with low-grade anxiety, restlessness, fantasizing about elsewhere, a feeling of being trapped, even when nothing is wrong. Here's a subtle but powerful one. Not everyone is motivated by status stability, external rewards, linear progression. Some people are motivated by mastery, autonomy, meaning, exploration, inner coherence. When your motivation system doesn't match the reward structure of your job, effort becomes exhausting. You can still perform, but it costs you identity energy. And that's the kind of exhaustion sleep doesn't fix. Here's the painful part. Because society treats normal jobs as the default, people who don't fit them internalize shame. You might think, why can't I just be content? Why do I always feel different? Why do I fantasize about escape so much? But what's actually happening is this. You're trying to adapt to a system that wasn't designed for your psychological profile. That doesn't make you fragile. It makes you misplaced. The first step is clarity, not action. Take a piece of paper and answer this. What exactly drains me here? Not the job, not capitalism. Be specific. Is it lack of autonomy, constant interruption, shallow work, emotional masking, value conflict, sensory overload? Naming the mismatch reduces self-blame. You're not broken. You're misaligned. Here's something many people get wrong. Your current job may be a survival container, not an identity expression. That's okay. You don't have to find yourself at work, but you do need places where your identity can breathe. Ask, where do I experience depth? Where do I feel intellectually alive? Where do I feel emotionally honest? This might be side projects, learning paths, creative work, volunteering, writing, long conversations. Identity starvation makes work feel unbearable. Identity nourishment makes it tolerable. Before changing careers, reduce physiological overload. Simple but powerful adjustments. Noise reduction. Clear boundaries on meetings. Fewer context switches. Predictable rhythms. Micro-solitude breaks. You're not weak for needing this. You're biologically honest. Most people assume, I must fit my entire self into my job forever. That's a false binary. Think in chapters, not prisons. This chapter might be about stability, skill acquisition, financial repair, psychological recovery, not self-expression. And that's okay. But clarity prevents despair. A quick note. If you also experience chronic attention issues, extreme emotional swings, executive dysfunction, burnout symptoms, conditions like ADHD, autism spectrum traits, or clinical anxiety may be involved. Understanding your neurotype isn't labeling. It's liberation through accuracy. If distress is severe, professional support matters. Let me say this directly. You are not late. You are not defective. You are not failing adulthood. You're navigating a world optimized for efficiency with a mind optimized for depth. That's hard, but it's not meaningless. Many people like you eventually design unconventional careers, create hybrid paths, build autonomy slowly, or redefine success on their own terms. Not through rebellion, through understanding. Let's summarize. If you feel out of place in normal jobs, it's often about nervous system mismatch, depth-oriented psychology, identity compression, and misaligned motivation systems. Not laziness, not immaturity, not entitlement. Your discomfort is information, not a verdict. You don't need to escape everything overnight. You need to understand yourself deeply and make aligned moves, one layer at a time. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're not lost. You're just more complex than the box you were handed.